If you're just doing a song and dance. Yeah, right. Shh. Oh my. Oh, is this a report of every? I was wondering about this. How'd we do? Oh, is this?
Very good.
Oh wait, is this not what I thought it was?
Working.
All right.
Yeah,
Wow.
but,
This
oh,
is worn down.
We made some money.
it's like back to the old way.
What do you
You used to have that button, you know,
Oh,
or
yeah.
circle. Now it has,
have to do?
okay,
Does that happen when you buy stuff on the machine?
test
You
one,
didn't ask the
two.
sports more officers?
Oh, we did. Are you serious?
I can hear myself.
Can we get?
Okay, broadcast is live.
Okay, thank you. It is 6:31 p.m. Monday, February 4th, 2019. The City Council for the City of Woodland will be going into an executive session regarding labor negotiations per RCW 42.30.140, Section 4, subsection A as in Adam. We will be in executive session for approximately 15 minutes. It's 7 p.m. Monday, February 4th, 2019. Regular meeting for the City Council for the City of Woodland. If I could please get everyone to silence your cell phones and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No, I moved last time. We're good. All right, Mrs. Ripley, please take the roll.
Councilmember Fredericks,
Here.
Councilmember Rounds,
Here.
Councilmember Plaza,
Here.
Councilmember Graham,
Here.
Councilmember Chapman,
Here.
Councilmember Benjamin,
Here.
Councilmember Humbert.
All right, everyone's accounted for. We have no presentations or proclamations this evening. Moving on to citizen communication for items not on the agenda. First up, we have Mrs. Shirley Kluke. I can get you to step up to the podium, state your name and address, and you can have 5 minutes.
Well, good evening, wonderful public servants. Oops, that didn't work. Okay, never mind. There's that. My name's Shirley Kluke. I live at 1774 Merriweather Lane. And I wanted to announce, if you didn't see it on social media or hear about it at Chamber or anywhere else, I want to let you know that we're having a wonderful fundraiser February 13th from 6 to 9 p.m. to raise funds for a new library, and that'll be at the Red Barn on Caples Road, Peterson's Red Barn. And I know I've asked you to help us, and you've been wonderful, but now I have a gift for you. An invitation to be our guest. I know you're going to be out of town. You're going to be out of town.
I'm going to be out of
And you're
town.
going to be out of town. I'll just tear yours out of town. And anyway, to be our guest with a guest of your own, husband, wife, sweetheart, whoever, to come to this event as our guest with no charge. In here, well, let me show you. I'm going to show you a flyer about it, and this flyer is in your invitation. And we're inviting you. See, I love my library. We're inviting you also to love your library. The flyer says one thing about RSVPing. It's mostly about paying. And since you're not paying, you can just do what it says on your letter, which is to call Judy Musa at FBRL Foundation and just let her know that you're coming, whether you're bringing someone with you. And you'll want to give her your email address too, because we are going to have some special instructions. Since there's very little parking out there, and it's gonna be really dark. And so we wanna let people know we're gonna have a shuttle, and so on and so forth. So, okay. And the last thing is to help us promote the fact that February is National Love Your Library Month. If any of you would be willing to stay after for a minute and take a picture with this sign, then we're gonna get that put on social media, and everybody will know that our city council and any other government officials who are interested.
Let's just go ahead and do that right now. Let's go. Why wait?
Time?
Let's just go. Yeah, let's just get it done.
Do it.
We've got a camera.
Are we all doing this? I better put these down.
Can we take a big group? You know, take a big group
That's
photo?
exactly why.
No.
No? Okay. Wow, you're very okay. Rules are rules, apparently.
I'll let you pass those out.
Do you want a group picture or individual pictures?
Oh, individual, or two people together is all right, but
Going by the back wall? Or?
all right.
There we go.
Me.
There we go.
Love it. Okay.
All right.
Next.
This is going well.
Yeah, see, we don't know what we're getting out here on time. You never know.
Then I can go home.
Yeah, there you go. Somebody's got to hold the sign. Okay, and me again. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. No.
Come on, Susan.
Here you go. How pretty. Gotcha. All righty.
Photobomb.
I didn't realize I was right there in front of my chair.
Jeez.
Not the mayor right off.
Yeah.
Mike.
Will you take the picture? Some of my buddies want to take a picture with me. You
Oh,
betcha.
there you go. I want to see Ben and Plaza.
Yeah.
Thank you. Wow.
Does that make it better? The rest of us now, they can sure look at them.
No,
They beat you.
I had Carol.
Oh, gosh, I've never been so popular.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody here who would like a flyer about this event? Raise your hand, I'll bring it. You have to pay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs.
Thank you.
Kluge. Okay. That works. All right. Mrs. Jennifer Ray Keene, you're up. Did you want pictures this evening as well? No? Okay, you're good. All right. Just
I'm
checking.
good, thanks.
It's on a roll.
Jennifer Ray Keene. I'm here representing Planners Day and just wanted to extend a very big thank you to you, Mayor, and to your staff for the reception, for our theme winner, and for our contest. That meant a lot, and it really kicked off our 2019 year. And as my first year president, it's just humbling, and we really greatly appreciate your support. So, thank you.
Oh, you bet. Thank you. And I ran into Mr. Ask on Saturday. He's already spent the money. He got the game he wanted. Yes. I asked him if he spent the money. He's like, yeah, I got a Pokemon game. So he's still very excited. Still very excited. Thank you for allowing us to be part of it. Much appreciation back to you and your committee and all you do for the community as well. So thank you. Anyone else for items not on the agenda? Now's your opportunity to step forward to speak. All right, seeing no one else. Moving on to items on the agenda. No one has signed up. If you failed to do so at the beginning of the meeting, now's your opportunity to step forward. All right. Moving on, come to the portion of the agenda for approval.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second. Moved by Councilmember Humberg, second by Councilmember Plaza. Will clerk please take the vote?
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
Councilmember Humbert?
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember Benjamin?
Aye.
All right, agenda has been approved. Moving on to reports of standing committee, Public Works.
Oh, that's me.
That's you.
I was daydreaming here. We met today at 3:30 and took a tour of the water plant and the sewage plant. So that was very interesting, looking at some of the projects we've been working on. So then we had our meeting following that. The water transfer pumps need to be pulled and sent in for service in the clear well. Under sewer, the dewatering process screw press, updated O&M completed and has been sent on to DOE for review. Under the sewer general information, the crane was inspected and certified on our truck. Under streets, the feasibility, exit 21 feasibility study, the RFQ is out and due back March. Catch basins, we repaired 2 catch basins, one on Twin Flower and the other on Rhododendron. Potholes, filled in 25 potholes throughout town. Street miscellaneous, fixed a light at Gilligan's Island where the flag goes, now going to purchase a flag to replace the tattered flag, take the tattered flag down. Facilities, police station, their sewer line reconfiguration and sink installation at the PS is happening this week, which we've seen the little sink that was in there,
Yeah,
which is
that's
very
nice.
nice. Handy to get water for the coffee, so. City Hall, new blinds to be installed this month. Horseshoe Lake Park, all but one sign has finished being painted at HSL. The last should be done within 2 weeks. We're hauling sand to HSL, which is Horseshoe Lake Park. Tentatively next week, weather dependent. Hoffman Park hung the handicap swing. Under other, put up pink lights and Valentine's Day flags downtown. We took a tour of that and they look very
Looks
nice.
nice.
Very nice. Park, a Turner review and completed, sent to Mayor Finn for signature. Grants and miscellaneous, asked for legislative to support and filled out capital project requests week on January 28th for the City of Woodland representative to obtain support at legislative rally. The Frank L. and Arlene Jean Price Foundation, the RFPs are due back tomorrow for the flagpole installation at the city. And we will meet again March the 4th at 5:30 p.m.
All right, questions for Public Works? Mrs. Rounds.
You may, I don't know if you said this or not, because sometimes I zone out, but the potholes, have there been, some of them seem to have been filled.
20 or 25
21 of
potholes they
them.
filled in.
Yeah, noticed.
Nice.
Throughout the city.
Thank you.
Very much. You're welcome. We continue to persevere.
Love it. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Mrs. Rounds? All right, Public Safety.
We met on January 22nd. Chief Kelly provided the committee with an update on department personnel. Officer Gibbs has embraced his return to the police department and doing very well. Recruit Officer Moore is performing well at the police academy. He's in good spirits. Chief Kelly intends on meeting with him next month as part of his monthly check-in with Officer Moore. Update Woodland Municipal Codes. Sergeant Lip has been working on updating and improving on the Woodland Municipal Codes. Sergeant Lip informed the committee of deficiencies in the code and discussed some additions to the code, specifically a camping code and a panhandling code. Sergeant Lip explained the necessity for these new codes and provided members of the committee with copies of the drafted code for their review and input. The committee will make recommendations at the February meeting. Sergeant Lip also informed us he will continue to review other codes in need of update and report back in the coming months. Sergeant Lip thanked the committee for their time allowing him to recommend these changes, and we appreciate what he has done in helping us to get these up to date. Police Department mobile radios, update and request. Chief Kelly informed the committee of a problem with the new digital mobile radio platform. Upon researching further into the capabilities of these potential new radios, Chief Kelly learned of the program restrictions for the radios the department was attempting to purchase. Explaining the needs of the department to a Motorola rep, there must be a misunderstanding of the city's needs, not realizing the necessity for communications with both Clark and Cowlitz County and the geographic challenges of our city's location. The radios were incapable of holding or maintaining program for growth. This issue specifically affected the program needed to communicate with CRESA, Clark County Communications, on top of the programming needed for future growth in Cowlitz County Communications. This issue was also realized in December when ordering the radios. The issue sparked several conversations in the department to find radios capable of programming for both counties. The county has approved $38,107 for the purchase of 12 Motorola's. The radios are needed for the programming would be the Motorola APX 8500 for a purchase and installation price of $52,580. These radios would not contain the program needed to communicate with CRESA and the Clark County law enforcement agencies, restricted Woodland PD to Cowlitz County communication only. Chief Kelly informed the committee that there were two options for the purchase of the program. I read all that because I knew I could never remember it, and it's really important. Option 1 is purchase the radios alone without the program needed for communications with Clark and Cowlitz County, $52,580. The cost would be using the already allotted funds of $38,107 and requesting a line item adjustment, taking $20,000 from the MDT account and placing it toward the purchase. And option 2, purchasing the radios, including the programming needed to communicate with Clark Cowlitz County law enforcement agencies, $86,046. With the above line item adjustment would leave $27,939 unfunded and would require the approval of Finance Committee and ultimately the Woodland City Council. If council was to approve the option 1, there would be no additional cost at the time. Waiting could pose elevated cost for CRESA programming later. If council was to approve option 2, the potential $27,939 revenue could be funded from the gambling revenue account. This would also give the city of Woodland an option to seek communication services elsewhere in the future. And I made the motion to recommend option 2, and the motion was seconded by Mr. Plaza. We adjourned at 5:13, and our next meeting is February 19th at 4:30 p.m. And if you have questions, please address them to the chief.
Yeah, Mr. Fredericks.
When will that be on the agenda?
Yeah. I intend to provide a summary for the Finance Committee,
Okay.
Finance Committee's next meeting, and then that would be addressed by council. pending the
Following.
approval of the Finance Committee.
So if I heard Councilmember Humbert correctly, she indicated that you were going to take a certain amount of money already out of an established fund
Yes, sir.
Correct.
within your budget.
Yes,
And then
sir.
the difference is how much that would need to be taken out of 301, the general reserve?
27.9, I think.
Yeah, 27.9.
So this was just overlooked in the previous, going through the process initially? This was an oversight?
Well, we didn't realize that the new digital platform that we were looking at, the cheaper version, would be incapable of holding the CRESA program.
Okay.
So it wasn't essentially large enough to hold the software programming and that type of stuff. Once that commitment is made to CRESA, they'll provide us with updates as part of the original cost. So the program would be updated. It would improve our communications with Clark County law enforcement, as well as the Washington State Patrol assigned from the Vancouver District Office. So it increases our officer safety and information highway, for lack of a better.
And this isn't a model that is on clearance right now, right? We're going to end up having to upgrade it in 2 years again, or?
No, sir.
Is this?
Not the way I
Okay.
understand it from our
Okay.
Motorola rep.
Excellent. Appreciate that, thank you.
But the difference was $27,939.14
See it here. Thank you.
purchased and installed.
Okay.
Anything else for Ms. Humbert? I appreciate Sergeant Lip's work on this and not, I think too often we hear from the DS and from council that, oh, we bought something that doesn't work and now we have to invest more. So I appreciate him taking the time and researching and not spending the funds that have already been allotted, and recognizing it wasn't going to be a adequate product.
Thank you for saying that. You did a great job on that, as well as updating on municipal code.
Yeah,
Yes,
good.
that's
Perfect.
Awesome to have him updating our municipal code, something that we don't often have time to look at.
Hey, can I just?
Yeah, Mr. Fredericks?
So the Finance Committee is scheduled to meet, I believe, on Tuesday, the 19th, because of the holiday on Monday. I will be out of town,
I will also.
and so will Councilmember Brown, so.
Well, we're scheduled to meet the 11th.
Next Monday.
11th. Yeah, the finance committee meets the second Monday.
I'll still
Carol
be
will
gone,
be
but
gone.
he'll be here, I think.
I'll be here on the 11th.
And
So Carl-
Chapman?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay.
Beautiful.
HR will be on the 19th.
I will not be at the HR meeting.
Nor will I.
Okay. Well, then you got an HR meeting issue.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Moving on to Human Resources.
I was not there, so,
Yeah, it was a light agenda. Our next meeting is scheduled for February 19th. We reviewed the collective bargaining agreement that is in the packet this evening. And I believe we referred it to council for council consideration this evening.
Okay. Questions? Okay. What do we call this? Reports to city officers.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I believe you skipped over reports of city council.
Oh, wait. Oh, I did. Sorry, I jumped the agenda. Reports of city council. Thank you, Mr. Boyce. I need to go back. Does anyone have any reports? Ms. Humbert?
Becky McCray will be here tomorrow morning, 8:30 at City Hall. Everyone is invited. She's a speaker on rural and small town business topics. I've been watching her, what's the word I'm trying to say? Her account on your webinars. Thank you. That was, and she has some pretty exciting things to say. So I'm really anxious. I'm really excited about having her here and being able to look at our city and give us some ideas. Then we'll meet at Luckman's for coffee to debrief, probably about 10 o'clock, so you're invited there. And then she will be attending Chamber of Commerce and speaking for a couple of minutes there. So I invite you all and urge you all to come and participate.
And the conference is on Wednesday, right?
Thursday.
Thursday.
And
Okay.
the chambers meeting,
At noon at the Oak Tree. Thank you. Because I go all the time, I assume everybody knows. Also, BFW Post 1927 will be doing breakfast on Saturday, February 9th, from 7 to 11. Blueberry pancakes or biscuits and gravy, scrambled eggs, sausage, orange juice, coffee, all the good stuff. Come and have breakfast with us and help support our local veterans.
Bill cooking again?
Bill's cooking
All
again.
right. Does a good job.
I don't think I attended any other meetings.
Okay.
Okay, that's it.
All right. Anyone else?
I attended the department head meeting on Wednesday, just in case you happen to still be out of town tonight, so.
Thank you for doing that, by the way. I appreciate it. Hopefully you didn't do anything crazy while you were in there.
Not too much.
I didn't hear.
Not anything
Unless,
to talk about.
yeah, so unless you brought them pastries to stay silent, which I could see you totally doing.
I never thought I would have.
Rats! No. Next time. Anyone else? All right. Now it's my turn. My goodness. All right, reports of officers. Thank you for having me go back, Mr. Boyce. Legislative priorities, are those for a final reading tonight?
Yes.
That would be action,
Consent?
oh, consent item, okay. Consent item N is in Nora this evening. The only thing that I would ask that council add to that is Senate Bill 5228, and I know that there's some controversy surrounding Senate Bill 5228. Part of my duties last week is I drove to Olympia and spoke in favor of Senate Bill 5228, and that bill is a collaboration of all the other Cowlitz County cities. We have determined that we've been handing over 2% of our hotel motel tax. Currently, the city charges, or the hotels are charging 4%. 2% stays within the city, and the other 2% goes to the county for their advertising needs for tourism. Cities got together. We attempted to make a deal with the county to get a portion of those funds back, and that was, I'll say, politely declined by the county. So we have taken a different route, and Senator Taco out of, I believe it's Yakima. Did I get that right? Yakima agreed to sponsor a bill to get that 2% back into.
Longview.
Oh, it's Longview. Sorry,
Dean Tackle.
Yes, it's Longview.
Senator Hobbs and Senator Hobbs and.
Yes.
Sorry, I've been lots of emails and phone calls.
Close in Longview.
Sorry, Longview. Anyway, he's agreed to sponsor. But where am I now? Where am I? Where am I right now?
This is Woodland.
Sorry. So he's agreed to sponsor that. Currently, right now, all the other counties within Washington, with the exception of Cowlitz and Snohomish, everyone gets their 4% back into the lodging tax advisory committee for distribution for events and special projects that create tourism. Cowlitz County and Snohomish are the only ones that are giving the additional 2% to the county. So last year, and thank you to Mrs. Ritt for getting those numbers to me, or Mr. Boyce, sorry. I think you probably talked together, but $67,000 went to the county last year. That could have stayed here in the city to promote tourism and events. So I went up and spoke for that. There was one Cowlitz County Commissioner who was there who spoke against it and asked them not to push this through, but it did come out of the Senate committee and is going to the floor for a vote. I don't know when, but so more to come on that. I have spoken to Miss Urban over at the chamber, current chamber president. I did receive a list of legislative priorities for city. Most of the priorities that came from chamber, I believe, are out of the city's control, but I'll be getting that over to council once I evaluate with staff what we can do and help with. But number one at the top of that was no changes to the lodging tax dollars. So if I just see it as a win for the city if we can get those dollars back in. So I understand that it is a very controversial bill, but I would like to add it to legislative priorities if council would approve that, just so when we're up there next week we can speak to that and get those dollars back in here. Questions on that? That was long-winded, sorry. Shh. They're coming after me. Downtown looks great. Just I saw more lights up today, so thank you for doing that. It looks wonderful. I can't wait to go hand in hand with Mrs. Finn on Valentine's Day downtown and see the pretty lights and the banners. It looks wonderful. Planters Day Princesses are coming at the next meeting, right?
No, March.
Oh, it's March 18th, sorry. March 18th, so looking forward to seeing them. I'm sure all the ladies are excited that they were chosen, the ones that were. So that's good stuff. And then also thank you, Mrs. Ritt, for being here this evening. I know it was a trying week for your family last week, so wasn't expecting to see you this evening. So thank you for being here and thought a lot about you last week and still do. So questions for me? All right, who wants to give the chamber report this evening?
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to
Mr.
say
Johnson.
legislative phone calls have started.
Okay.
I won't be able to attend in the morning, but they meet at the information center at, the call is at 7:30, but that they like to meet at 7 o'clock to discuss any issues they want to talk to the legislature about. And I think it's Mr. Braun that will be calling in the morning. So I've been attending those, and so is Janice. So they're very informational. If you got any questions or just want to talk to them about anything, it's a good place to be. So that's at the Information Center
Perfect.
in the morning.
All right.
Janice, you got anything else to add?
No, I've kind of been out of it for the last couple of weeks, so.
Glad to see you're
I
feeling
think-
better.
Yeah. I can't really think of anything else right off the top of the head. We haven't had a board meeting or anything to discuss any issues just yet, so.
Okay.
I think that's probably all.
Okay. In your consent items this evening are changes to the council rules, and that the chamber being added to the agenda is one of those items that will be in there. So once that happens, we'll need to identify at the next meeting who will start giving that report.
I did want to just say that everyone is welcome to come.
Okay.
So please feel free to show up at the office, because the more the merrier.
Absolutely. And I also encourage those council members that can attend those phone calls to sign up for the legislative reports that come from our district, from Senator Braun, Orcutt, push out a newsletter, and DeBolt also put out a newsletter, and they're very informative as well for those that can't make that phone call. Real quick, too, I forgot about a few items I marked on the agenda here. Action item O this evening was pulled from the last meeting until some further investigation was done with the document recording fee. I'm encouraging council to approve that this evening. Those funds will go to the Woodland Action Center for emergency housing distribution. And then also on action item P, the rules and procedures. We discussed those during our retreat, and I think everyone was on board with that. Big one for me is the chamber report, getting that on there. That's been asked in the past, that chamber have an official agenda item, so we're getting that in there. Also on action item R, very excited about the CBA Teamsters and the contract that is before you this evening from the Teamsters for Public Works. I'm encouraging a yes vote on that as well. And I'm also looking forward to having a conversation with Mr. Goddard this evening on ordinance number 1429 during our workshop, so with action to follow. Mr. Boyce.
Okay, we have department reports, so I'll try to keep it brief. Last Thursday, I met with Sean Hennessy. He's the new Clark County manager. We had a good conversation, brought him up to speed on what was going on with our comp plan amendments, proposed comp plan amendments, and how it might affect Clark County. He's wanting to make sure that Woodland has a voice in Clark County matters, which is encouraging, so we'll be definitely engaging as we go forward. As we mentioned, the Public Works Teamster agreement is on. It's been ratified by the bargaining unit. The clerical Teamsters we're attempting to schedule another meeting, and I believe we're close at coming to an agreement there also. And then I wanted to reiterate that we have our city walking tour with Becky McCrae tomorrow at 8:30. Please, anyone who's available, attend. She's a small business expert, and it should be a good event. It's always informative, so please try to attend. With that, there's notice of liquor license renewal for Veterans number 1927. Then we have the list of events. We heard about the Red Barn event for the library on the 13th. 13th and 14th are the AWC City Action Days in Olympia. If those counselors that are going want to carpool, please let me know. We can take a city vehicle up. March 13th, AWC, Association of Washington Cities, has a webinar series regarding roles, responsibilities, and legal requirements. Encourage all to check that out. May 22nd, AWC has another webinar series, Public Sector Resource Management. And June 25th through the 28th, the Association of Washington Cities annual conference happens in Spokane. So if anyone has any interest in attending that, please let me know. I'll be attending for the city, but I'm not aware of anyone else at this point, but just let us know. So That's all I have this evening.
Questions for Mr. Boyce? Thank you, Mr. Boyce. Mr. Randolph?
Nothing to report, sir.
Thank you for being so responsive. I just appreciate it. I think I would give you a lot of work. Oh yes, I forgot.
I made darn sure while y'all were in the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you for this wonderful calendar. I've already started using it. For some reason, it just miraculously appeared on the desk. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Questions for Mr. Randolph? Mrs. Ripp?
Yes. So we've been working on a few upcoming ordinances. Mostly two of them are coming out of the planning department. So you'll be hearing about those. We'll be finalizing the council rules tonight and then working on processing those. We did process council packets for 4 meetings, including tonight's in the last month for January and the 1st in February. We send out a number of public notices on our website and to our newspaper of record and others. Those are for some notice of applications, notice of, what's it, NOD, determination?
Notice of determination.
Determination,
Decision, sorry.
Decision, okay. And then also the walking tour notice, we got that out in front of everybody. Want to let you know, you can always see those out on our city website. They're on the homepage, so that's a good place to go to find all those. We wrapped up our public surplus auction that was held for bidding from January 2nd to 16th on publicsurplus.com. We had sales of over $17,300. So that is kind of maybe a high amount that we've ever had, but we did have a few vehicles and equipment on there. The Columbian did a front page story for the city of Woodland on there. We had actually 2 folds in the front page and the second page, so that was
Awesome.
nice. Our social media posts have included the most recent Cressa weather updates, our walking tour, and we have a new pay-by-phone feature that we're implementing for utility customers and others. So there'll be a number they can call if they want to pay by phone. And then again, we're sending out our reminders for utility bill due dates and such. On the second page of the handout there, you'll see that our clerk, Heather Ferguson, was recognized by Express Employment Professionals as Employee of the Month. I'd sent a nomination for her, and she was selected out of all the Southwest region. So that was quite an honor. There's a new map that we just received. It has a bunch of city advertisers in it. This will be available at the chamber, the city offices, and we'll have some here at the police department lobby as well. So that's all updated, and we have a lot of those to hand out to anybody that wants one. Pete had already mentioned, as well as the mayor, about our union contract proposals, and we spend a lot of time prepping for that. We had the reception and the recognition awards for the Planners Day Award, so that was worked on by my staff and myself. Civil Services processing, I don't know if you're aware, on a monthly basis, our preliminary eligibility list, they do scoring and ranking and send letters to all those members every month so they know where they're at in the ongoing process of that eligibility list. We sent out the notices to the unsuccessful engineering aid people. And then we are processing the job description salary grid, created the online portal for the associate planner applicants and placed ads for the new positions, so that's been done. We processed a few claims for damages. One was for the wastewater treatment plant exit 21 fence from the traffic accident that probably most of you are aware of. And then we held a safety committee meeting on January 15th, and we did agenda minutes for those. We're still continuing with our computer desktop replacement rotation. We had 4 that our IT consultant, Colby, has been working on over the past month or so. And then we're also following up with our Vision Municipal Solutions software upgrades. We are doing some troubleshooting with our recording and video. We've had a few issues at the very end of the meeting, so we're working on that with our software providers for that. Let's see. We processed a number of public records requests. and citizen comments and communications. Tonight's agenda, we have the Woodland Action Center for the document recording piece, so that's hopefully going to come to a close. And the website, we attended a demo with 2 vendors, and we have another one possibly scheduled, so we'll be having some reports for that coming forward, probably through the Finance Committee, hopefully in the next month or so. We processed another utility lien, and then, of course, our regular business for voucher processing, accounts receivable, and then our financial reporting. We are assisting the Southwest Finance officers through the WFOA with meeting planning for the quarterly meeting. It's going to be held in Kalama at Minimans. And we have speakers that come in, and so I've been helping coordinate that. Also, I'm helping coordinate the WFOA, which is the finance officers' planning meeting for BAR's cash training. And with that, we'll get 2 free registrations and also a discount to go to the annual conference. So that will help with our expenses. We're prepping the RFQ for the indigent attorney services, and I'm hoping to have that out this week. And then some other things that we worked on were the tourism promotion area, transportation benefit district, fees for licensing, and then the packet that went to the council retreat. There was a lot of research and reporting that we did for those meetings. Special events and facilities. We processed the 2019 triathlon for Y Racing. That's going to be in a July event, so we're continuing to meet with those folks, as well as the Get Bold Triathlon, which is April 28th. We're doing follow-up meetings with LB Benzler for those and his team. And then we are looking on tonight's council agenda. There's a number of special event agreements that will be council be hearing action on tonight. And then we've had a few issues over the community centers. We've sent out some reminder notices to some of the users over there about how we expect them to take care of our buildings. We prepped registrations for the City Action Days, the Chamber Installation Banquet, the CEDC meeting. I attended the FBLA Winter Conference at Woodland High School on January 25th, and I judged one of the events, and that was a very successful event, and there was a lot of students there. And then I also sent out to everybody, if you haven't seen your email, the Open Public Meetings Act and Public Records Act required training that is needed to be done. And I've got a few responses from some of you already. So if you were in that email, then you're due to turn in your paperwork. So get that to me if you can. And that's all I have.
Questions for Mrs. Ripp? Mr. Fredericks?
What's the due date on that training? Yesterday?
ASAP.
Okay, and the tourist promotion area, has there been any further work regarding that by staff?
We talked about it at the department meeting. I haven't had a chance to meet with the mayor and Pete yet, but we're working on that.
Okay. I believe there's going to have to be a delegation sent out to a few local establishments, and we need their help in order to make that
Right.
happen. So
Right.
that we haven't formulated the plan yet. Any other questions for Mrs. Ripp? Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Ripp. Chief Kelly.
The Woodland Police Department continues to be a presence in the city of Woodland. Not only do we do our day job of keeping the city safe, we also are involved in quite a few extracurricular activities. Unfortunately, we started the month of January with a heavy heart by going to the funeral services for Nate Chumlin. We went to Vancouver, the church service in Vancouver, and Sergeant Keller and I went to the Willamette National Cemetery to attend the graveside service. We continue to go to our Safe Kids meetings and the car seat clinics at College 2, and Donnie Connor does a fantastic job with that. We also had a Cub Scout meeting and a tour of the PD hosted by Sergeant Keller. We had the privilege of being instructors, guest instructors at the AP government class at the high school for 2 sessions. And Officer Murray, we even wrangled in the new Kalama officer to come with us and be part of that, talking about the 4th and 5th Amendments. So he got quizzed pretty well. We conducted our first quarterly department meeting and all the members were included, with the exception of our recruit officer, who's otherwise occupied at Berea going through the academy. Let's see. I had the honor of being part of the Princess Court Selection Committee with Mrs. Rounds, and that was a lot of fun, and we got to get introduced to the newest princesses in our court. And I met with the recruit officer Moore at the WSP Academy in Shelton while he was going through traffic week, along with Sergeant Lip, and we let him know that he's doing a good job. We heard good things from him, and I haven't checked with the driving instructors up there to see how well he did, but I'm sure he did well and represented our city greatly as he has since he started. And then I attended the Lower Columbia Public Information Coalition at the Collins County DEM. Other than that, I think we're all caught up.
Okay. Chief, questions for Chief Kelly? Thank you for all that you do. And I attended that last meeting as a different role, but it was nice to see you there. Thank you. Chief Jackson. Thanks for coffee too, by the way. I forgot to say thank you for buying the coffee that day. Yeah, Chief Jackson.
Thank you, sir. A variety of things that are going on. Looking back last month, our biggest incident in Woodland in January was a structure fire at 1825 Hartwood. Went well. We had help with all of our on-duty resources as well as volunteers and some of our mutual aid partners there. More recently, this past Saturday, you're probably aware there was a motorhome fire at the roundabout on Lewis River Road that created significant backup and issues. It was a response kind of out of the ordinary with some strange circumstances around it, but police were a huge help there. Things went well overall. We were appreciative of folks being patient with our response and allowing us to reroute traffic to keep the scene safe. You might have seen we've had significant training going on at the now vacated funeral home. We've been grateful for that opportunity. We've had all of our crews across the district up there, as well as a lot of our mutual aid partners with some pretty robust training inside that building, which is kind of a unique opportunity to have a place that big. We can have some destruction inside and do some pretty robust and heavy-duty training that would otherwise cause pretty significant damage to the inside of the building. So it's been a great opportunity. We're able to offer some training for the police department on use of Narcan and the Narcan drug for narcotics overdose. That went well, and we look forward to continuing that partnership and working together on those kind of responses. We had a new inspector start with us February 1st. The main role for him, his name is Josh Taylor, will be doing existing inspections in Ridgeville and the center who have requested those services. But it'll also help free up some of my time and allow us to keep up to speed with our new construction work and permitting and inspections and that stuff with all of the new projects in Woodland and across the district. We are working on CPR training for our city partners, including city staff, with CPR and fire extinguishers. And when we get all that set up, I'll try to make sure the word gets out to the council. If there's anyone interested in participating in that training, we'd be happy to have you join us for that. Response-wise, we've done most of our summary for 2018, and we'll formalize that in a report that will be coming out. But kind of a quick summary, essentially across the district, our responses were up 11% from the prior years. We had about 11% higher responses in 2018 than we had in 2017. And that had us with a little over 4,000, about 4,200 calls district-wide. Of our 6 stations, Woodland was our busiest, accounting for about 25% of those responses. And that was about 12% higher than our next busiest station, which is located down at Dollars Corner on the 72nd just south of 219th on the Clark County side. Mutual aid-wise in Woodland, we work with partners across our district, essentially all the fire districts that border us. In Woodland, our biggest mutual aid partner is Cowlitz Fire District 1. They responded in to help us with 5 incidents last year, and we were able to provide them assistance for 50 incidents over the course of the previous years. That's That's all I've got, unless there's any questions.
Questions for Chief Jackson? Question.
Mr. Mayor?
The motorhome, was that someone's full-time living arrangement?
I unfortunately don't know the details. I was not available for the response
Okay.
on that, so I didn't don't have any.
What? Chief, do you know? No? Okay. I'm assuming that if it was, that there was some services that would have been passed along for assistance.
Yes, we have a close working relationship with the Red Cross and resources like that
Okay.
that will accommodate those services. As well as our labor group has a fund with some immediate resources to help with those.
Okay. And then, thank you. It looked like one of our local ones that drive around. That's why I'm asking. Know what happened to? It wasn't. Okay.
The Washington plates on it come back to nothing.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I know there were some strange circumstances around the response, but that's about all that.
Okay. The training that you're doing over the funeral home.
Yes.
Is there signs that are put out saying training in progress? How many more training sessions do you have over there?
Only a few. And I know that they've tried to be cognizant and make sure that, there's no blockage of the road.
Yeah.
Folks out of the way, not a lot of lights flashing, there's no smoke generation or anything like that. So signage has probably been minimal, and to my knowledge, I don't think we've had any issues, but certainly if there are issues or concerns, we'd be
Okay.
to try to make sure there's.
I just think people are, what's going on over there? That's all. But I think you guys have been there enough that I think they understand what's happening now. But if you guys are almost wrapped up with that, I don't see the need for it.
Yeah, I think there's just a little bit left.
And
Or one or two more sections.
Okay.
And it's all interior.
Okay.
interior.
Perfect. And then the Narcan, are the officers carrying Narcan?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. And you assisted with training with Narcan? Okay, good. Have we had any deployments yet?
No,
Okay,
We have.
you
No
have.
surprise there.
Not our guys, not our officers yet? Okay. Yeah, I'm not surprised with that.
Yeah.
All right.
Fortunately, more than a weekly basis.
Mr. Fredericks.
You mentioned the mutual aid at 50-to-5 ratio. Is that something that the district looks at when it's heavy to one side like that? How does that work?
It is. It becomes a little bit tricky because, there's certainly times that we all need our neighbors. For instance, we get more assistance from Vancouver than we provide to them. Although it's conceivable that if they have something significant, we might provide a lot of assistance all at one time. So we do certainly try to keep an eye on that and look at that from a long-range planning standpoint. But on the short term, we just do what we can. Now, one thing we do look at is trying to manage our resources there. With Woodland being our busiest call center, if we have, say, we send our Woodland rig up Lewis River for a response into Cowles Fire District 1, and it's going to be extended. If that crew's anticipated to be out longer than an hour, we will relocate a rig from south in the district up to Woodland. Essentially, so we have 6 stations. If we only have 2 units available, one of those units is in Woodland. If we're down to a single unit, then we centralize in the district. We will base that and try to relocate resources as needed. So certainly keep an eye on it and working for them. But, we're fortunate to get their help.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for Chief Jackson? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Mr. Goddard.
So since I last updated you, we've issued the site plan approval for Red Canoe, and they are preparing their building permit applications for the credit union behind Taco Bell. We also have the Granger Short Plat Shoreline hearing, and that will be February 13th. We have another Planning Commission hearing for the comprehensive plan, the internal cases that are within the city limits will be February 21st. And then the comprehensive plan meeting for the external expansion of the urban growth boundary, that will be March 21st at the regularly scheduled February and March meetings. I also just recently, as of Thursday of last week, completed a document for the vacant buildable lands inventory that I did, kind of the basis for all of the discussions on the individual cases. So that should be available online, hopefully tomorrow. I'll get that to Lori to put up on the website. We've received three pre-application conferences, and they will all be held February 7th. One is a small shoreline project. Another one is a warehouse and manufacturing, a couple 100,000 square feet of manufacturing and warehouses, and then also a potential air gas facility. They have thousands of those canisters, and they process different chemicals to put into those canisters. So that will be, or different gases, I should say, not chemicals, to put in those tanks. So that'll be Thursday as well. We also have 3 site plans so far this year. One of them is the Riley Industrial Complex on the northwest corner of Caples and Pekin. Also, Brett Flieger's B&B Complex. It's on Belmont Loop, adjacent to his other. He currently has 3 red metal buildings with various auto shops in them, I think. So he's developing his site next door, which he also owns. And then we also received the Builders First Source Trust Plants. So previously I had called it the ProBuild. That's one of the companies of ProBuild. So they have submitted their building permits and their site plan application for the trust plant. So if you've seen them out there moving dirt, they're preparing the foundations for that site. So hopefully we'll get them started in short order. You probably noticed that the Trailer Depot looks like they've got their stock on site, and hopefully they're open if they are not open already. You'll also see that there's construction activity occurring at the Ace Hardware. They're building a garden center expansion at that site. Byung RV has started work on their foundations, and they've been submitting compression testing for the concrete and that kind of stuff. So they're hard at work. Hopefully they'll get open not too late into the season. Columbia River Carbonates, their construction is proceeding. IGS, which is the used to be the little yellow tackle shop that's torn down. They've actually got their structural steel delivered to the site. I'm not sure why they haven't started their construction, but they've got their permits. Also, the AMPM across south of Taco Bell, they've also pulled their building permits. They just haven't started construction. And then Dutch Brothers has pulled all of their demolition permits, so hopefully we'll see the Hanson Motel and the 2 structures, or the 4 structures behind the Hanson Motel. Hopefully we'll see those come down in short order as well. Their building permits, I believe, are ready to be issued if they haven't already been issued yet. So we should start seeing that construction pretty soon. The construction figures so far this year, we've $1.9 million of residential construction that they've already pulled building permits for this year. Commercial, $600,000 worth of commercial structures, building permits, and $4.5 million of industrial building permits have been pulled this year. So we're hardly 2 months and a half into it, and we're already at $7 million construction this year.
All right. Questions for Mr. Goddard? Oh, Mrs. Rounds, sorry.
The February 21st meeting, do you expect that to be as crowded as it was before?
I do not. I don't expect it to be as crowded, but I have had several conversations with citizens who were concerned of converting commercial to residential land. And this is very similar to the issue that you were dealing with before I got here, when you were dealing with the Glenwood property that was going from industrial to residential, and that occurred just in January when I first got here, I think. So there may be some interest in those, but I haven't quite got a firm idea of whether it's the key passion. I think that'll be the March meeting is where we'll see more turnout.
Okay. One other thing, we drove by the trailer depot, and yes, they have started moving quite a few trailers out there. The only thing I noticed, and this is just observation, that they're enclosed trailers. They have them parked at what road is that?
Sherman?
Sherman Way. They have them parked at the end there, which hinders, if the open trailers was there, it would be better, but they've got the closed trailers there, so it hinders you being able to see a little bit of the roundabout. So I don't know if it's worth mentioning to them if they'd move them back on the lot or something, you know,
Yes.
but it does hinder a little bit being able to see the roundabout and watch traffic coming, you know,
Okay.
so.
So we'll have a conversation with them about that.
Okay.
It's a good idea.
Okay. Mr. Fredericks?
I noticed the planning commission meeting, I had heard that there was quite a few folks here, and I'm wondering if, I don't know how many people were out in the overflow. Should we be looking at a different location, not only for the planning commission meetings, but also presumably when these come to the city council? I'm just not sure that this venue is big enough for how many people might
Right.
show.
We had some conversations with the school district, and the problem is the school district does not have the equipment to both record and broadcast those public hearings. So we would either be able to record, but not do speakers, or record, I should say. We could voice record, but video may be problematic, so.
Would it be appropriate to request that maybe KLTV help us with the video on that and pay one time to have it? I mean, I'm just suggesting that maybe we should be looking for alternatives so people can
I agree.
participate in the process and not have to be overflowed out into a room where they can barely hear and not feel like they're part of the process. So I'm hopeful we can look at.
My conversations with Mr. Green, he had suggested that we use the middle school auditorium, which is the old high school auditorium, which I've never been into. The high school just isn't convenient, I guess, with scheduling, but the middle school auditorium, and when those items do come to council as we're moving forward, that's going to be my suggestion, that we move it to there, because it houses a lot of people, but we are limited to our abilities set by council rules for video and audio recording.
That's why I was questioning the 21st. I didn't know whether there would be.
Nothing prevents the council from given a timely response. Nothing prevents us from suspending the rules and allowing for us to change something if it would accommodate more folks to be a part of the process. And you're going to be available for questions on some of the items that we have coming up.
I will be.
Okay, good.
Any other questions for Mr. Goddard? And Mr. Goddard, those items that are will this all be coming to council as one big packet once the planning commission has gone through it, or will the items from the 21st of February be brought forward, even though they're still working on the other things? That seems to be a question I keep getting.
We can only do one comprehensive plan amendment a year.
Okay.
So my plan is to have the separate individual hearings, but to bring a single map to you, so that you would be able to hear so you'd be able to consider the individual cases, but ultimately you would instruct me to prepare a single map under case Comp Plan Amendment 2018 number 10. That's the city's umbrella project that I've been having the discussions and building the record under.
Okay.
So ultimately, you will get a single map after you tell me what you want on that map product.
Okay. Go ahead.
Do we have a timeline on when we might expect to have this coming before the council, just so we can plan accordingly? I know members of council are gone sometimes, and it would be good to know ahead of time when we think that's going to be coming before us, so we can try to be here.
I think I will know more February 21st, because there's 4 items on the agenda, and if we make it through all 4 of them, I will be able to figure out whether or not we'll be able to get through 1, 2, 3, or 4 on the March 21st. So it's entirely possible that it could come to you April, but it may also be May. And then the question would be, would you rather have it in the first meeting of the month or the second meeting of the month? Because if we can get everything done in those 2 hearings, I literally would be able to bring them to you in short order, but if you want me to plan a month or 2 ahead of time, you could pick a date and I could aim for that target rather than having you wait for me to pick a date.
Yeah, my hope, just as speaking as one member here, that my hope is that we could have some sort of planning discussion ahead of time with the council to identify, hey, are y'all going to be here? Is this a good date? Because I think it's important to have full council representation when we hear that items.
Okay. Anything else? All right, thank you, Mr. Goddard. Ms. Coleman.
Okay, so, let's see here. We had on our budget agenda a purchase for a jet rider truck, substantial amount of money, about $400,000. We have actually found a used jet rider truck that we can purchase from the city of Vancouver for a substantial savings that would allow us to purchase one of the vehicles at the wastewater treatment plant to rotate some of our vehicles that were behind it on our vehicle rotation. So with the savings that we'll get on the jet rider truck, we'll be able to purchase a vehicle and still save over half of what we were originally intended to purchase to put that back into the budget. So we're really excited about that. That's gone to our council and it'll come to the finance committee before it comes to council, just kind of a heads up. Also, we received the initial permit for the Davidson Railroad crossing from the Burlington Northern Railroad and for the water crossing. And so we sent that in with a certificate of insurance and an additional check, as always. And we're just waiting to get the final permit on that. Part of the condition of that is to have some soil bore samples done, and that's at the tune of about $13,000. So once we get the final permit back, we'll be into it already about $26,000 to $30,000 just for an application to be able to go underneath the Davidson Railroad crossing. That doesn't even include the West Scott Avenue Railroad crossing, which will be another challenge for us as we go to do the West Scott Avenue road full depth reclamation and replacing an asbestos water line that's in there. So we'll be working on that as well. I want to let you know that our department is continuing to work on paperwork that's required for all the grants that we're going to receive this year. So there's a lot of paperwork that's involved that you have to fill out before you can start spending the grant dollars. So we've been working on getting all that paperwork filled out, all the documentation that they need, so we can actually go out for engineering services and start to spend that to start to meet our grant dollars. So we're working on that. I have some contracts for the mayor to sign to move forward. One of them is for the feasibility study and some are for the grant applications. So we can get those signed and we can move forward on those. Then also, the flagpole that we were talking about that Carol reported on, Ms. Rounds reported on, that was tattered. We did take that down and replace that today. So the flag is up, and so there's a new flag, the light's working, so we're good there. Let's see, there was a report last week for a sheen on the Lewis River. I just want to bring to everybody's attention. It was reported by somebody that is off the river, and they stated that it seemed like there was a big oil spill. So we went ahead and investigated it. There wasn't a big oil spill. There was a sheen that was on the river. We reported it to the Department of Ecology. They actually came out because there was a fuel spill at the AMPM that's right down the road as well. And so that's been reported, but they appear to think that at this time that it was just, we had a lot of dry weather, and then there was rain that came in, so it was just some of the runoff on the road that went into the river that appeared to look like a big oil spill when it was more of a sheen. So I just want to let people know that that was investigated and that was reported. Let's see, what else do I have here? I filled out some paperwork for asking for some additional funds to match one of the grants that we might possibly be getting. So we have a large match dollar of about $350,000. So I filled out some paperwork to see if somebody can help us match that, $200,000 of that. So if we do receive that grant, that we might be able to move forward on that purchase, or not purchase, on that project. And then we also had come across our desk dollars that were given back for some other grant dollars that had been awarded to another municipality, a rural municipality, and they aren't able to use that, so they sent out a 2-week window for anybody who might have projects ready to go ahead and submit for these grant dollars, which is about nearly $1 million. So we went ahead and submitted for $250,000 to start to finish up some of the sidewalks. So as you guys are aware, that we had the CDBG funds that we received only partial funding on that grant. So we asked for the additional fund to finish up that project. And then we also asked for some funds to finish up sidewalks on Pacific Avenue. We won't be one of the top contenders because it's for rural and we're considered urban, but they did encourage us to apply because we were project ready and it was piggybacking on other grant dollars. So we did go ahead and apply for that. And the nice thing is that if we do receive this grant, which is, like I said, over $250,000, then it will also allow us to work with Hallett's PUD to get the last 2 spans of overhead wire underground on Pacific Avenue. So some good things can be happening there if we end up receiving those grant dollars. So just kind of let you know that that's kind of in the works. And that's all I have to report.
Questions for Ms. Coleman?
I'm hoping we're tracking these grant dollars because
Oh, I'm tracking.
that would be a really good story for the Columbian
Yeah.
to share. With the
I'm trying to earn my keep.
folks. You're doing a great job.
Yeah, I have it. We're up to, right now, we're at over 6 million, and if we can receive, we'll probably be close to 8 million. So we're working.
Absolutely. Winter Road, I think we talked about this last year. With the impending weather that's coming in, do we have a plan in place? And
We do.
Okay,
Yes,
good.
yes, sir.
I figured we did. I just had to ask. All right, thank you. Reports of advisory committees. Ms. Humberg, Cowlitz-Waukegan Council of Governments.
We met on, I don't remember what day we met, January 28th, I believe. The Board of Directors accepted the Public Utility District of Waukegan County as a new member, so that was kind of exciting. The Board of Directors approved a special call for projects for surface transportation block grants, including the guidelines funding awards will be discussed at the February meeting. It was a really interesting presentation that they gave on how that was going to work. The Board of Directors also received an update on the medical rate stabilization program from Corey Balkan for the people that are on that. And that was kind of a short meeting. That was about all that happened. Our next meeting is February 28th.
All right. And how about DWI?
I didn't get minutes from DWR, but we met here on January 22nd, I believe. And we have decided that rather than meet monthly as we have been, we're going to meet like twice a year. Our next meeting will be in May. Ms. Coleman is going to take over Hot Summer Nights in conjunction with Movie in the Park, so that will be coming. We'll be having more information about that. It's kind of exciting. Some new things coming down the pike.
All right.
And we have submitted the application to the city for the Hot Summer Nights already.
I get.
It's not on this.
Oh, it's not on this one. Okay.
No, but it's been.
It's coming. Okay. Questions for Ms. Humberg on either meeting? All right, we'll come to consent items on our agenda.
I'd like to pull E, H, I, and N.
Oh,
Second.
All right. Motion on the floor to approve all except E, H, I, and N by Councilmember Frederick, seconded by Councilmember Chapman. Will the clerk please take the vote?
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks?
Aye.
Councilmember Benjamin?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Consent item E, special events Culpeper Circus, 5/27/2019 at Horseshoe Lake Large Field by Woodland Rotary.
Move to adopt consent item E.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Frederick, seconded by Councilmember Humbert. Councilmember Fredericks.
The only reason this is being pulled is because the applicant happens to be a member of council, and she will probably need to recuse herself from voting on this item.
All right. For Ms. Humbert. Further discussion? Will the clerk please take the vote on consent item E?
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
I'm going to abstain because I'm on the board for Rotary.
Councilmember Benjamin?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
All right, and that's 6 yeses and 1 abstain. Moving on to consent item H, special event Planters Days on 6/13 through the 16th, 2019 at Horseshoe Lake Park and various city locations by Planters Days Committee.
Move adoption of consent item H.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Frederick, seconded by Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Fredericks.
I believe this is being done for the same reason. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Janice. Janice.
Councilmember Rounds.
Same. I agree with.
Further discussion? Whatever that guy next to me is. Further discussion? Will the clerk please take the vote on consent item H?
Councilmember Graham?
I abstain because I sit on the board.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
Councilmember Benjamin?
Aye.
Councilmember Hubbard?
I need to abstain as well as I sit on the board.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember Frederick?
Aye.
5 yeses, 2 abstain. Moving on to consent item I, special events Planters Day Carnival, June 10th through the 17th, 2019 at Horseshoe Lake Large Field by Cowlitz County Fire District 1.
Move adoption of consent item I.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Frederick, seconded by Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Fredericks.
Yeah, the reason I pulled this, because I have a question as it relates to the folks that are employees of the carnival, and what is being done to ensure that they're not entering the property area on Island Air Drive, the folks that live over there. I don't know if it was last year or the year prior that there was some concerns with employees going into or on the property of people that lived in there. We got several complaints. What's being done to ensure that that doesn't happen?
I don't think we had that problem last year. I know we've had it in years past.
Okay.
We did not have that problem last year. We talked with Carnival. I was out there while they were setting up. I'm not sure why the change occurred, why there wasn't any problem last year, but we basically talked to them while they were setting up, and Dennis worked with them and I worked with them, and we didn't have any complaints last year for the citizens that are in that mobile home park.
If we could just reiterate to those folks too, because it was apparent that we didn't have just one citizen here, we had multiple citizens here.
In
It must
years
have been.
past, not last year.
It was
correct?
not last year, correct. It was 2 years ago.
It was 2016.
2016. Is it
Yeah.
2 years or 3? Now it's 3 years. Hey, time flies.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure that that discussion is reiterated.
we will.
Okay.
We'll do that.
Thank
Chief
you.
Jackson.
I believe that one of the changes that helped to make that effective was relocating their mobile living accommodations to the park. whereas they had previously been on that property across from the public works shops,
Yes.
and they relocated them to the park.
Are we doing that again this year?
The way I read the application is that the application also requesting the use of the small city lot located next to the city shop for use as a camping location for carnival workers.
I think that, I did see that, but I think they used more of the parking was over there, and they used more of the Horseshoe Lake was where the RVs and stuff were. The overflow parking was mainly over in that area. I don't know if a few people had slept in their cars at a time. All I know is that we didn't have that problem.
Okay.
But the majority of the RVs and the motorhomes and campers were at Horseshoe Lake in the park. That is correct.
I'm just trying to prevent and make sure that we're inviting people who are going to respect people's property,
We'll
and
reiterate
to
that.
prevent people from, being upset that we approve something that created a nightmare for them, even if
Yep.
it's just for a few days. So
I agree.
I appreciate it.
Chief Kelly, do you remember if your guys got any calls out there at all last year? Okay.
Councilmember Rounds.
No comment.
Further discussion? Mrs. Graham?
Just on behalf of the Planners Day Committee, we are aware of these issues that have happened in the past and have tried to work with the city and fire department and then with the carnival to avoid any conflict with the residents of the park.
Okay. All right. Anything further? Clerk, please take the vote on consent item I.
Councilmember Fredericks.
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman.
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Is this one of these abstain one? No, this isn't. Aye. Yeah.
Councilmember Humbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Benjamin.
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza.
All right, 7 yeses. Consent item N, adopt legislative priorities for 2019 final reading.
Move to approve action item N with section 7 added, requesting that the state legislature adopt Senate Bill 5228.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Fredericks, seconded by Councilmember Chapman. Councilmember Fredericks.
I don't normally request that something be added that I haven't read prior, but I was able to go through and read Senate Bill 5228, and I believe it resolves the issue that we have, and so I am requesting that I think it makes sense to adopt it, requesting that the legislature adopt Senate Bill 5228.
Councilmember Chapman.
I like it that the mayor and staff is looking to help get more money back into the city and stuff, so I'm very supportive of adding this to the adoption.
Further discussion? Will the clerk please take the vote on consent item N, adopt legislative priorities for 2019 final reading, adding section 7 to be Senate Bill 5228.
Councilmember Chapman.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks.
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
Councilmember Humbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Benjamin.
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza.
Aye.
All right, consent item N has passed. The time is 8:22. I'd like to take an 8-minute recess.
All right, we're live.
Thank you. It is 8:30. We're back in session. Moving on to action items. Action item O, authorize mayor to sign agreement with Woodland Action Center for document recording fees.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Fredericks, seconded by Councilmember Chapman. Councilmember Fredericks.
Hey, I'm just grateful that we have an agreement in place this time.
Yeah, it's true.
Taking us a while to get here. Councilmember Chapman.
I concur.
Further discussion? Will the clerk please take the vote on action item O?
Councilmember Plaza.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks.
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
Councilmember Benjamin?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Humbert?
Aye.
Moving on to action item P, ordinance number 1428, amending council rules and procedures, first reading.
Move to approve?
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Humberg, seconded by Councilmember Plaza. Councilmember Humbert.
We talked about this at our retreat. I think we're all in agreement. And we passed that first reading.
Councilmember Plaza. Further discussion? Will clerk please take the vote on action item P?
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
Councilmember Humbert?
Aye.
Councilmember Benjamin?
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Action item Q, ordinance number 1427, amendment of Woodland Municipal Code 17.76, exceptions and similar use authorization to add to the authorization of auctions as a retail activity, first reading.
Move to approve consent item Q.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Chapman, seconded by Councilmember Plaza. Councilmember Chapman.
Nothing further to discuss with it.
Councilmember Plaza.
That's a good thing to bring some more revenue,
Further discussion?
Well, you don't necessarily have to come up, but you're going to be coming up here in a few minutes anyway, I think, for ordinance number 1429. But can you tell me a little bit about what this is? Is this an appeal? What is this? Tell me what.
So there is a prospective business operator who is considering moving up from south of here, and he runs a small auction business, and it's like a small-scale Ritchie Brothers, which generally sells large construction stuff. What his niche is like government agencies like the City of Woodland. When we did our auction, that's what he does. So he is looking at a large gravel laydown area where he would do essentially retail sales, which means you're selling to the end user of equipment, and it could include, the occasional big piece of yellow construction graders or backhoes, but it also includes everything from old surplus desks, fire hoses, vans, equipment, vehicles, generators. It runs the whole gamut. So he runs an auction business, not necessarily like the traditional retail. And our code just doesn't say what to do. And so I gave him my opinion that it was a retail sales business, but I said, before you invest your money, if you really want to be sure, you have to go to the Planning Commission and get their opinion. And the Planning Commission agreed, and based upon the adoption of this code, he will look to buy property in the City of Woodland.
Okay, so because when I saw committee recommendation here, I didn't see that it had previously gone to Planning Commission. It says on here on the third paragraph, the PC determined that auctions are a similar form of retail sales as allowed in code. No appeal has been filed. So what the Planning Commission has said, if I read that right, is that, hey, we're supportive of this change.
Yes.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Further discussion? Will the clerk please take the vote on action item Q, ordinance number 1427?
Councilmember Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Benjamin?
Aye.
Moving on to action item R, authorize mayor to execute CBA with Teamsters Public Works.
Hold on.
Did I skip one? OPQR.
This agenda change from this afternoon to today? I have
No.
Oh, this is 1421.
That was, is that the?
R.
So next up is a workshop on
1429.
That's after the
1429, and then
Teamsters.
action follows the workshop regarding ordinance 1429.
This is your R right here. That's your R right here. those are stuff just out of order.
Good. J Stout Auctions, is that all?
Is that we just did that one?
Yeah, that's.
What was it not? Is that the right number?
Yeah, you know what, there's two pages. There were two council agenda summary sheets that were included in the previous action item.
One was the planning commission.
One
and
was the planning
was-
commission,
one
so
was
I
city
stopped.
council.
Got it.
Okay.
A little slow.
All right. Action item R, authorize mayor to execute CVA with Teamsters Public Works.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Humberg, seconded by Councilmember Chapman. Councilmember Humberg.
I think this went well, and we're lucky to have what we have, and we need to approve it.
Councilmember Chapman.
I agree. I like the patience and stuff that the city administrator put into this to get this up and get a quick contract negotiation done, so we can put this behind us.
Further discussion? Mr. Fredericks.
I appreciate what was done on the healthcare piece in here. That was a really good thing, and I appreciate that. And I think that is certainly a fair thing to do, given the cost of medical coverage. So this is a good agreement, and I will support it.
Further? Will the clerk please take the vote on action item R?
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks?
Aye.
Councilmember Humberg?
Aye.
Councilmember Benjamin?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Action item R has passed.
Mayor?
Yes.
On the previous item that we passed, page 11 has the wrong dates that are under the Schedule A. Should, instead of 2015,
Right.
it should read 2019, 2020, and 2021.
Right.
That's correct. The labor attorney is still drawing up the
Okay.
final contract with the changes, but we've noted that. Thank you for pointing that out.
The time is now 8:38. We're moving into a workshop on ordinance number 1429. Mr. Goddard. And before you get started, staff recalls I asked Mr. Goddard to draft this up without objection at the last meeting.
So you just stole my thunder, because that was
Sorry.
the first thing I was going to say.
That's what I do. That's what I, hold on. Mr. Goddard, sorry, forget I said anything.
So as requested, we took a look at the language that was in the zoning code for the location of RV parks. And we've, between the city attorney and myself, we identified a code section where it would be applicable to make changes. And what you have before you is a result of that review. Do you have any particular questions?
Mr. Fredericks.
Wouldn't this be considered a land use change?
It is, yes.
So did this go through the planning commission first?
So you have the option, because the planning commission, that's part of the reason why you had the two agenda sheets, is because the planning commission wanted their staff reports to look exactly like yours, so it's a familiar format. They are essentially the mini-me to you, and they have the duties that you assign them. And so the staff report points out that you can choose to take action on this without going to the planning commission if you so choose.
And what would be the reason for that? Simply, is there, the only reason I would throw that out there as a concern is it gives folks just another opportunity to be able to say, hey, presumably if I own a piece of highway commercial on the west side, you're telling me what I can do and what I can't do with my property. All of a sudden, you're making a change to something that I may have had plans to do something with, and we're almost as though we're bypassing one step in the process to allow folks to be able to come either for or against it. And I realize that nobody spoke on this tonight, but
Yes, that is absolutely correct. We are doing that, and I think you had pointed, or you were pointing to that issue at the last meeting when the mayor asked me to prepare these words, and you were like, okay, are we going to have a chance to talk about it? Are we going to?
Right.
Yes. So that's why it was brought to you today as a work session as opposed to an action item.
And then it's got an action item right after this work section to approve or not approve. First reading. So it does give folks another opportunity, but do you think that that's the appropriate process to take? And I'm going to really put you on the spot because
Probably not. In my opinion, I don't think there would be any harm taking it to the Planning Commission. There are no applications pending, and there have been no pre-application conferences. So the first step for that to occur, so there's nobody actually in the process, and I have talked to a consultant who this might be affecting, but I've also talked to 2 other consultants who this would not be affecting. So at this point, there's nobody who's vested and would have their application affected.
Nobody who has an application in currently, but in my mind, if we're making changes to what in essence is a property right, in my mind, it's a property right. What you can do and what you can't do with your property, if we're prohibiting something,
Yes.
in my mind, it makes sense to go through that additional process.
Okay.
At least from my perspective.
You are only one member.
I am only one
Yeah.
member. Is there a reason why this has moved so quickly to this point?
I'll take the heat on this one.
Well, this is the first available meeting after I was asked officially, so I'm being responsive to my customer.
Well,
that was good.
That's really good.
I have a lot of concerns if this change isn't made. We did discuss sending this over to the Planning Commission. We did discuss that, and it wasn't something that was necessary. This is in regards to property that is west of Interstate 5 that is connected to our historic downtown area. This type of use, the change that is being asked here, if that type of, in my opinion, this type of use that would be used here would be a huge detriment to the downtown area and its revitalization. Not to mention the fact that this is a large swath of commercial property that is necessary for the city to continue financially. This is not the financial impact to that piece of property for the city would be huge without commercial development. So,
Is there a planned RV park? Again, to me, it goes to property rights of and then process in my mind. So it's difficult for me to just say, hey, we're going to bypass that process and go directly to considering this.
Sure. So the person that I talked to about this was the representative for somebody who was considering buying the property.
For this use?
For this particular use.
Was that individual invited to come here tonight?
So I talked to them this morning, and they said that they were not necessarily interested in pursuing it, regardless of whether this code change went through or not. So they have changed they've changed their attitude. But I've also talked to 2 potential buyers for that exact same piece of property who are interested in putting potentially a hotel on that same site. So there are multiple people looking at purchasing the site, and the person that I had talked to who had brought up this initial idea was only one of 3 people who were looking at RVs within the city, RV parks within the entire city at this point. So there's nobody in particular, but the potential opportunity for someone to be affected is there.
and again, I will
So
say
does that
Mr.
answer your
Goddard
question?
said that there were no active applications in the hopper.
Okay.
So does that answer your question?
Well, it
Because you look
does.
like you're still
Well,
waiting.
It reaffirms exactly my point in that, again, and not only that, we're restricting someone's property from being used maybe the way that it's currently zoned to be used, and I appreciate the concern that's being raised. But on the other side of that coin is, we're also saying, well, we like certain types of businesses, but we don't like this business. And so, I think you follow if you go through the process and we get to the end, I think we all will come to our own conclusion on that. I just think that the process has been shortened here, and I'd like it to go through the additional process.
I'd like to make a comment to what you just said as well of certain businesses, and I appreciate, we already have 2 other businesses of this nature that are in the process. So it's not that we want certain businesses or are trying to exclude certain businesses. We do have businesses that are currently in application mode right now for this particular use in a different area of the city.
And
the concern is the fact that this is a very visible piece of property that has a financial impact to the city if it is not commercially developed.
And that's true for the other 2. My problem, or the issue that I brought up in the staff report, and that is specifically the traffic that a RV park at this particular site could occur, that could be caused, has a significant impact for exit 21 that the other 2 proposals are not going to encounter because they are using exit 22. So
Motel users, if it's a motel, you're telling me that is going to generate less
No,
trips?
he's saying the other two projects will be using exit 22.
I misunderstood. Okay.
yes. Yep. So, but there's also that issue which I brought up in the staff report, and that is vehicles going to traditional commercial uses typically are single-family residential in size, as opposed to RVs and having large vehicles interacting with the stop signs at Gorig and Lakeshore and the other one. Thank you.
Now, what's to suggest someone from saying, well, you know what, I don't like truck traffic, and I think it's going to do a disservice to that area? What would to suggest that council couldn't say, well, we've heard of this project coming in, we don't like it, so therefore we're going to fill in the blank with RV parks, with whatever business you don't like, and then suggest that you're going to be able to say, yeah, we don't want that in here. And it would seem to me that creates lawful issues at some point about what I can do with my property or what I can suggest that I can do with my property.
It is problematic.
Well, we could say the same thing about retail marijuana. You could. Council restricted the sales of retail marijuana. You just took away my right as a property owner to sell marijuana.
Well, I think the difference is one of those is a federal law. If you want to address the federal law, then I think that opens it up for council to consider. I think it's difficult to suggest that council members who took an oath of office to support the laws of the United States, that we're not picking and choosing which laws we want to support. So that, I don't think is a fair comparison, but it concerns me that we're saying, and I don't disagree with what could go there. I just am suggesting that I think maybe it goes allowed to be able to go through a process a little greater than, hey, let's do a workshop and then let's vote on it right after we have a workshop on it. I mean, and then I'm not sure if we invited folks to, and I'm suggesting that we would invite folks to come and have a conversation, because there's a responsibility on their part to be able to look at the agenda and understand what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I think it should go through an additional process, but
I understand exactly what you're saying. I also need to be honest with you, and that is there is no mechanism for me to notify individual property owners when this does go to the Planning Commission, because typically the notification process goes out to people in an affected area 200 or 500 feet of an affected property. And since this is applying to everything on this side of I-5, that I will not be sending notice to all of the commercial property owners on this side of I-5. So it would be published in the newspaper, it would be posted at the post office, City Hall, police department, but I won't be able to contact each individual property owner, just so you're aware of that.
So, Mr. Randolph, I guess a legal question, and it goes back to the question I raised earlier. What's to say as a member of council, I hear of a project or somebody who's interested in a piece of land, even though we have, let's say it's for, I'm just going to use an example because we have a lot of them here already. We have a Mexican restaurant who wants to come here. And I say, you know what, I just don't want any more of those on pick an area of town, south, east, west, north. I don't want any more of those. It seems to be rather problematic that we would be doing that. And am I missing something here?
I mean, the issue is that you don't have to send it to the planning commission. So it's a question of procedure, and I don't know if that's more of a legislative decision, but this is something that should be sent to the planning commission first, as opposed to not. I mean, obviously, if someone had an application, then they would be vested, and whatever the decision made tonight would be irrelevant to what happened. But until they have a completed application, change can occur.
But it's okay to restrict uses that are already allowed in your code by just the...
I mean, and that's the whole idea behind vesting, is that the law is constantly changing. But once you have a complete application in, even if the law changes the next day, it doesn't impact you.
Okay.
But you're raising a policy thing which could make you, if you wanted to send it to the planning commission, that would be a decision that could be made by the council if they preferred to do it that way. But I don't see anything that precludes you from addressing it tonight.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
And I think what you're talking about is you have that right because it's an underlying zoning power that's given to you as the city. So yes, you could arbitrarily decide fast food restaurants, no fast food restaurants, no drive-throughs. Those are all part of your zoning powers. What you can't do, and Frank can correct me if I'm wrong, but what you can't do is spot zoning, which would allow specific uses but only on a specific property in the zoning code. So you can't specifically approve a one property spot zone that would allow McDonald's restaurants, but only on that property because somebody you know owns that property and...
Right.
Yeah. So...
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion with Mr. Goddard or questions or concerns that have been raised?
I just have a real quick question.
Mr. Plaza.
So if I'm following right, part of the reasons for the RV thing is because of traffic congestion and problems that RVs may cause going up Main Street, right? Am I following that right? That's part of it? Not the
Part
whole
of it
thing,
is
obviously,
exit 21 has a different traffic situation than exit 22.
Okay, so when you were talking about traffic of stop signs of Davidson and Bozarth and all that's not relevant?
Well, that's part of it, yes.
Okay, so in that case, let's say we go ahead and there are no RVs on this side of town, but some business that everybody loves is coming in on that side. What's going to alleviate the traffic problems from any new businesses or any new homes coming in on that side of town? Do we have a plan for that?
The underlying traffic will be addressed by impact fees and PM peak hour impact fees for something like a fast food restaurant or a hotel will make considerable contributions to fixing that intersection, whereas an RV park has a very low PM peak hour trip generation. So, we might be talking $100,000 for a traffic light versus $10,000 for a traffic light. There is a difference in amount of revenue that is generated depending upon the traffic generation pattern of that use.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Boyce.
And we also have the grant to study, do a feasibility study on exit 21. So we're attempting not to just look at the current load of traffic now, but we're trying to look into the future, what are those projections going to be in the future? So when we get to a point where we can do a fix on that intersection or those intersections, additional capacity can be dealt with. It's going to be a challenge, and it will be tough getting construction dollars, but that's the idea behind it.
Right, yeah, and this is an argument for another day, but since we're talking traffic, I'll throw it out there. But it's just not exit 21 that is concerning me. It's all the roads, that we've got. They're all 2-lane roads, and anything substantial goes out on that side of town, and what are you going to do, right? So, okay.
Mr. Fredericks, you look like you're looking for something. You want me to wait?
No, I am completely good to go.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Last chance for workshop. All right. It is 8:57. We're back into regular session. Action item S, community development, ordinance number 1429, amend zoning code to prohibit RV parks in the C1 and C2 districts. First reading.
Approved as presented.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Humberg, seconded by Councilmember Chapman. Councilmember Humberg.
I think that it's a good idea, given the facts that we've heard from Mr. Boyce and Mr. Goddard, that we have them not be on the side of the freeway.
Councilmember Chapman.
Yeah, I think everybody discussed it quite well during the workshop, so no more comment.
Further discussion? Mr. Fredericks.
I'll be voting against this. I don't disagree. I disagree with process again. We have everything that typically comes before council should go through a committee to provide us a recommendation. And this gives folks another opportunity to be able to speak as to the reason why this is a good idea or a bad idea. And whether the fact nobody shows up to speak for it, we have to conduct business in a transparent way that allows more opportunity for folks to be engaged. We at least have to try, give it a shot. And I think this way of doing business of putting something on the agenda, and I'm guilty of it because I've done it myself, but I've learned my lesson of putting things on the agenda without having it go through a formal process. I realize that there'll be one more opportunity for folks to speak on this before we pass a final reading of it. But again, in my mind, it comes to process, and also is in the spirit of the council rules and procedures that we just adopted this evening that say we will take things through committee, that we're not going to ramrod things through, and that's what this appears. I don't necessarily disagree with the end outcome of what we've come to. I'm probably in agreement to that. But again, for me, it comes to the process and giving folks another opportunity to speak on this, and have a 5-member board who provides recommendations to this body, an opportunity to be able to see, to hear it, maybe ask questions that we didn't think of, and ask staff to either make some changes and then have it come to council. So I would prefer that it go to the Planning Commission first. I don't think this is an emergency, and so therefore I'll be voting no on the motion that's currently presented.
Further discussion? Councilmember Hubbard.
I understand what you're saying, but I don't feel like it's being ramrodded through. We have a chance to work on our transportation issues, and it's a big deal in Woodland. We have some really bad days when you can't even get on or off the freeway. And if making sure that we know how much traffic is going to come this direction in a more timely manner helps us get that completed, then I feel like that has to come first.
Mrs. Rounds.
If this is just the first reading, I'm okay with that, but I think that before we have it at the next council meeting for the second reading, I think it should be, members that go to chamber should announce it, that it's going to be on the agenda, and maybe anybody they talk to downtown should mention that it's going to be on the agenda, so they have the opportunity to come here and talk to the council about it, so.
Good with that.
Mr. Chapman?
Mr. Goddard, can you tell me, does this affect established businesses? This is future businesses?
Future.
This future only, okay.
Mr. Plaza?
I'm going to be with Mr. Fredericks on this. I'll be voting no as well. I think since we don't have any RV parks that are requesting to go out there at this point in time, and Mr. Goddard himself said there's potential for some problems if we do it this way, I don't see why we can't take a step back, take a breath, have it go through the proper committees, and have them come back with the pros and cons of doing it, one way or the other, and we take another look at it in the future. So I'll be voting no as well.
Anything further? All right, will the clerk please take the vote on action item S, ordinance number 1429?
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
No.
Councilmember Fredericks?
No.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Benjamin?
Aye.
Councilmember Humbert?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
All right, ordinance number 1429 has passed 5-2. Come to the portion of the agenda for adjournment.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 9:03.